Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Please consider subscribing and check out our Patreon for more. Enjoy the video. The sun was just beginning its slow descent, casting long shadows across the field of vibrant wildflowers. The air was heavy with the sweet fragrance of blooming flora as a gentle breeze rustled through the petals. It was a peaceful scene, one that belied the intricate and dangerous work being undertaken by a small group of men. "Hey, Johnny! Over here!" A deep voice cut through the gentle hum of the flowers. A burly man with a weather-beaten face and calloused hands waved over to a younger man, his muscular frame betraying his strength. "We're almost done for the day, but I could use a hand with this last batch." Johnny, his face shining with a youthful grin, made his way over to his colleague, Marcus. "Just give me a second, Marcus. I want to get a little more of this pollen. It's like gold out here, and I'm not passing up an opportunity." Marcus nodded, his eyes narrowing as he scanned the vibrant field. "Just be careful. These flowers might be pretty, but the bees are something else. I've seen more than a few guys get stung, and let me tell you, it's not pretty." Johnny's smile faded slightly, but his determination remained. "Don't worry about me. I can handle a few bees. I'm more concerned about filling our bags. The boss man will be pleased and we'll make some good money." As if on cue, a low, menacing buzz sounded nearby, and a large bee emerged from the heart of a nearby flower. It hovered threateningly close to Johnny's face. Its eyes seemed to glint with malicious intent. Johnny froze, his eyes widening as he slowly backed away, careful not to make any sudden movements. "That's a big one," he managed to say, his voice tight. "I'll stick closer to you from now on." Marcus chuckled, a deep rumble in his chest. "Smart boy. These bees don't play around. Their stings aren't just painful, they can mess with you in other ways, too." "How so?" Johnny asked, his curiosity getting the better of him despite the imminent threat. "Well," Marcus began, his eyes never leaving the bee as he inched backward. "The venom in their stingers does something to your body. It messes with your hormones, lowers your testosterone, and—" He trailed off, a faraway look in his eyes as if remembering something long forgotten. "And what?" Johnny prodded, his initial fear now a mere tingle of excitement. Marcus snapped back to the present, shaking his head slightly. "It's just an old wives' tale, that's all. Nothing to worry about. Now let's get this last batch and head back. The boss will be expecting us soon." The two men worked side by side, carefully extracting the precious pollen from the flowers, filling their bags slowly but steadily. The sun continued its descent, casting an orange hue over the field, and the air cooled as the day turned to dusk. "You know," Johnny said, his voice thoughtful as he paused in his work, "I've been thinking about what you said earlier, about the bees and the hormone thing. It's kind of fascinating, actually." Marcus shot him a sideways glance, a mix of wariness and amusement on his face. "Fascinating, huh? I'm not so sure about that. It's just something that happens, I guess. Nature can be cruel sometimes." Johnny smiled, his eyes sparkling with a mixture of curiosity and something akin to excitement. "But don't you think it's interesting? I mean, here we are, a bunch of burly men risking our necks to collect this pollen, and all the while these tiny bees could be slowly turning us into—" He trailed off, a sudden rush of uncertainty washing over him. Marcus straightened up, his bag full, and turned to face Johnny, a mixture of emotions playing across his rugged features. "Turning us into what, Johnny? That's just silly talk. We're men, through and through. A few bee stings aren't going to change that." Johnny opened his mouth to respond, but a sharp, piercing pain on his neck interrupted him. He cried out, his hand shooting up to clutch the sting site. "Damn, that hurt!" Marcus was at his side in an instant, his face creased with concern. "You got stung, didn't you? Let me see." He gently pulled Johnny's hand away, revealing two small, angry red marks. "Yep, that's a sting, all right. Come on, let's get you back to the camp. We can treat it there." As they made their way back through the field, the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of purple and pink. Johnny's neck throbbed, and he couldn't shake the feeling of unease that now permeated his being. "Hey, boss!" Marcus called out as they approached a makeshift camp where a few other workers were already relaxing after a long day. "Johnny here got stung. Can we get some ice on it?" A grizzled man, his face etched with the lines of a lifetime spent outdoors, emerged from a rustic cabin. "Stung, huh? That's the third time this week. You men need to be more careful. We can't afford to lose any more workers." He turned and shouted into the cabin. "Jake! Get your lazy bones out here and fetch some ice for Johnny." A younger man, his face bearing a striking resemblance to the boss, emerged from the cabin, rubbing his eyes. Yeah, I'm coming. What's the fuss now?" He spotted Johnny and grinned. "Oh, hey, Johnny. Take a seat and I'll get you fixed up." As Jake rummaged through a small ice chest, Marcus pulled Johnny aside, his voice lowered. "You feeling okay? Any different?" Johnny thought for a moment, his hand unconsciously going to his neck. "I feel fine, I guess. A little tired maybe, but that's probably from the long day. Get some rest tonight," Marcus advised. "We've got another early start tomorrow. This pollen won't harvest itself." The days blended into a haze of flowers, pollen, and the ever-present buzz of bees. Johnny settled into a routine, learning to navigate the perils of the flower field with practiced ease. As the days turned into weeks, however, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was changing. One morning, as he splashed cold water on his face, he caught a glimpse of his reflection in the metal basin. He paused, his heart skipping a beat. There was something different about his face, something he couldn't quite put his finger on. Leaning in closer, he studied his features, his eyes widening as he noticed a subtle softness to his jawline, a hint of curvature that hadn't been there before. "You okay in there?" Jake's voice startled him, and he jumped back, his heart racing. Yeah, I'm fine," Johnny replied, his voice sounding strange to his own ears. Just, needed a moment, that's all." Jake raised an eyebrow, a knowing look in his eyes. "If you say so." "Hey, did you notice anything, different about yourself lately?" Johnny's heart hammered in his chest as he slowly turned to face Jake. "Different? What do you mean?" A half smile played on Jake's lips as he leaned against the cabin wall. "Oh, I don't know. It's just that, you seem to be, how do I put this, filling out a bit more. In certain areas, you know?" Johnny's eyes widened, and he instinctively brought a hand to his chest, feeling a fullness he hadn't noticed before. "Do you think so?" he asked, his voice cracking. "I think so," Jake replied, his smile now broadening. "Don't worry, it's not a bad thing. In fact, I'd say it suits you. You're looking good, Johnny." A flood of emotions washed over Johnny, confusion, curiosity, and a strange sense of excitement. Thanks, I think," he managed to stammer. Jake clapped him on the shoulder, his expression turning serious. "Look, it's totally normal, all right? It happens to a lot of us. Just go with it, embrace the changes. You'll be okay, I promise." As Johnny made his way to the flower fields that morning, his mind was reeling. He couldn't stop thinking about what Jake had said, about the changes that were apparently happening to his body. He felt a mixture of apprehension and intrigue as he considered the possibility of his body transforming. "You're awfully quiet this morning," Marcus remarked as they walked side by side. "Everything all right?" Johnny nodded, his eyes downcast. "Yeah, I'm fine. Just tired, I guess." Marcus stopped walking and turned to face him, his eyes narrowing. "You sure? You don't seem like yourself lately. Anything you want to talk about?" Johnny bit his lip, debating whether to share his thoughts with Marcus. "It's probably nothing," he began, his voice hesitant. "But I may have noticed, some changes." Marcus's brows furrowed and he stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Changes? What kind of changes?" "Physical changes," Johnny whispered, his cheeks flushing. "I think maybe my body is, changing shape or something." Understanding dawned on Marcus's face, and he placed a reassuring hand on Johnny's shoulder. "Oh, that's totally normal. It happens to the best of us. Don't worry about it. It's just the bee stings doing their thing." "But what does it mean?" Johnny asked, his voice small. "Am I turning into ... into a woman or something?" Marcus shook his head, his expression softening. "It's not that simple, Johnny. It's more like your body is finding a new balance. You're still you, just with a few adjustments, that's all." A wave of relief washed over Johnny, mixed with a strange sense of disappointment. "So it's not that big of a deal then?" Marcus smiled, his eyes warm. "It's only a big deal if you make it one. Some of the guys embrace the changes, even encourage them. Others try to resist, but it's a losing battle. Nature's gonna do what it wants." Johnny took a deep breath, feeling a weight lift from his shoulders. "Thanks, Marcus. It helps to talk about it. I think I can handle this." As the days turned to weeks and then months, Johnny noticed the changes in his body becoming more pronounced. His once muscular frame had softened. His skin had taken on a smoother, more supple texture, and his features had taken on a delicate femininity. He had also developed a newfound appreciation for certain articles of clothing, often sneaking glances at the other workers' attire, admiring the way their pants hugged their now curvaceous figures, or the way a loose-fitting shirt draped over newfound breasts. "You're really embracing the new you, aren't you?" Jake teased one morning as Johnny carefully applied a light layer of makeup, something he had secretly longed to try. Johnny smiled, his cheeks flushing with a mixture of embarrassment and pride. "I guess I am. It feels good, actually, like I'm finally becoming who I'm supposed to be." Jake nodded, his expression understanding. "It's a journey, for sure. We all handle it differently. Some run from it, some fight it, and some, like you, embrace it." "Do you think the others will accept me?" Johnny asked, his voice laced with concern. "I mean, I know I'm still the same person, but I can't help but feel self-conscious." Jake grinned, his eyes sparkling with mischief. "Accept you? Hell, most of them are probably jealous. You're rocking the whole feminine thing, and you know it." Johnny laughed, feeling a surge of confidence. "Maybe I am. It's kind of fun, experimenting with all these new options. I never knew there were so many choices just in hairstyles alone." "Welcome to the wonderful world of being a woman," Jake said, his tone playful. "It's a never-ending adventure, let me tell you." The two shared a laugh, and as Johnny stepped out into the morning sunlight, he felt a sense of freedom and acceptance he had never known before. As time passed, Johnny fully embraced his new identity and the changes that came with it. He enjoyed the small pleasures of painting his nails, choosing outfits, and experimenting with different hairstyles. What surprised him the most was how comfortable he felt in his own skin, as if he'd finally found his true self. He secretly hoped that the changes would continue, that he'd wake up one day with fully developed womanly curves. One evening, as the workers gathered around the campfire, Johnny caught the eye of one of his fellow pollen collectors, a man named Luke, who had also undergone noticeable changes. They shared a subtle smile, a silent acknowledgement of the shifts they were both experiencing. "You know," Luke began, his voice quiet as their eyes met, "I think I prefer the way I'm becoming. It suits me, I think." Johnny's heart skipped a beat as he felt a rush of excitement. "I know what you mean," he replied, his voice soft. "It feels kind of freeing, doesn't it?" Luke nodded, his eyes sparkling in the firelight. "It does. I never thought I'd say this, but I kind of like the idea of fully embracing it, of becoming—" He trailed off, not wanting to voice the thought aloud. "Of becoming a woman?" Johnny supplied, his voice steady. "It's crossed my mind more than a few times." Luke smiled, a mixture of relief and curiosity playing across his features. "It has? So you're not running from it?" Johnny shook his head, his eyes fixed on Luke. "Not at all. I feel like I'm finally understanding myself. It's like a puzzle piece I never knew was missing, suddenly falling into place." Luke laughed, a sound of pure joy. "That's exactly how I feel. I thought I was alone in this. It's a relief to know I'm not the only one." As the two shared a comfortable silence, the crackling of the campfire filling the space between them, Johnny felt a sense of camaraderie and understanding with Luke. It was a feeling he hadn't experienced before, and he cherished it. "So tell me," Luke said, leaning forward, his eyes sparkling with mischief. "Have you chosen a name yet? Something more, well, fitting for your new self?" Johnny's heart raced as he considered the question. He had, in fact, been pondering this very thing. "I have," he replied, his voice steady. "I think I'd like to be known as Jasmine from now on." Luke's eyes widened, and he broke into a smile. "Jasmine, that's beautiful. It suits you perfectly. I can already picture it." A warm flush spread across Jasmine's cheeks as she continued, her voice gaining confidence. "And you? Have you chosen a name as well?" "I have," Luke replied, his voice soft and hesitant. "I think I'd like to be called Lily." Jasmine's heart swelled as she repeated the name. "Lily. It's perfect. It fits you somehow, even though you're technically still a he biologically." Lily smiled, a mixture of relief and joy washing over them. "Hearing you say that means a lot. Thank you." The two shared a long look, an unspoken understanding and connection passing between them. It was a moment of acceptance, of embracing their true selves, and it was undeniably freeing. Over the next few weeks, the changes in Jasmine and Lily became more noticeable. Their once masculine features had fully softened, their bodies curving into delicate feminine shapes. The other workers had also come to terms with their transformations, some further along than others. The camp had taken on a more inclusive feel, with traditional gender lines blurring as everyone settled into their new selves. "You know," Marcus said one evening as he watched Jasmine and Lily laughing together, their once deep voices now higher in pitch, "I never thought I'd see the day, but I can't deny they're happier than I've ever seen them." The boss man nodded, his eyes narrowing as he took a long drag from his pipe. "Can't argue with that. They're good workers, and they seem to have adjusted to their new situation just fine." Jake, who had joined them by the fire, chuckled. "Adjusted? They're thriving. They've embraced their changes, and they're not looking back." Marcus smiled, the corners of his eyes crinkling. "You're right, Jake. It's a damn sight better than pining for something you can't have. Might as well make the most of it." The boss man grunted his agreement, his eyes never leaving the two figures across the fire. "They're a damn sight easier on the eyes now, that's for sure. Who knew those scruffy lads would clean up so nicely?" The three men shared a laugh, their initial misgivings about the transformations now a distant memory. It was clear that, although the changes had been unexpected, they had brought about a sense of peace and acceptance within the group. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out Patreon for a lot more content and early access to YouTube videos.